In this video series, I will provide perspective, historical fact, and critical analyses of the current political landscape that gave cause for the resurgence of the American government, as we are taking the needed steps to restore our lawful government here in America. I will present to you how it is being done. The Federation of States has secured and offers to you your rightful claim to your inheritance as an American. And we ask that you join your fellow American state nationals in the work of finishing the reconstruction of our constitutionally guaranteed Republican form of government. Welcome back, America and the world, to today's episode of the Resurgence Pulse Report. I am your host, Louise Campbell Anthony, with the Peacekeeping Task Force for the Federation of States, that is, the United States of America Unincorporated. This is going to be the final video of this first series of the Resurgence Pulse Report. I'm going to end it with mapping out for you our American government's reconstruction plans and where you fit in to the plan to encourage you to play your part. I am going to set the perspective for this episode with reading a section from a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by Stephen R. Covey, his 25th anniversary edition version, copyrighted in 2013. Here is the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. Let's go to page 41. I'm going to read this section called The Power of a Paradigm. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People embody many of the fundamental principles of human effectiveness. These habits are basic. They are primary. They represent the internalization of correct principles upon which enduring happiness and success are based. But before we can really understand these 7 habits, we need to understand our own paradigms and how to make a paradigm shift. Both the character ethic and the personality ethic are examples of social paradigms. The word paradigm comes from the Greek. It was originally a scientific term and is more commonly used today to mean a model, theory, perception, assumption, or frame of reference. In the more general sense, it's the way we see the world, not in terms of our visual sense of sight, but in terms of perceiving, understanding, interpreting. For our purposes, a simple way to understand paradigms is to see them as maps. We all know that the map is not the territory. A map is simply an explanation of certain aspects of the territory. That's exactly what a paradigm is. It is a theory, an explanation, a model of something else. Suppose you wanted to arrive at a specific location in central Chicago. A street map of the city would be a great help to you in reaching your destination. But suppose you were given the wrong map. Through a printing error, the map labeled Chicago was actually a map of Detroit. Can you imagine the frustration, the ineffectiveness of trying to reach your destination? You might work on your behavior. You could try harder, be more diligent, double your speed, but your efforts would only succeed in getting you to the wrong place faster. You might work on your attitude. You could think more positively. You still wouldn't get to the right place, but perhaps you wouldn't care. Your attitude would be so positive, you'd be happy wherever you were. The point is, you'd still be lost. The fundamental problem has nothing to do with your behavior or your attitude. It has everything to do with having a wrong map. If you have the right map of Chicago, then diligence becomes important. And when you encounter frustrating obstacles along the way, then attitude can make a real difference. But the first and most important requirement is the accuracy of the map. Each of us has many, many maps in our head, which can be divided into 2 main categories: maps of the way things are, or realities, and maps of the way things should be, or values. We interpret everything we experience through these mental maps. We seldom question their accuracy. We're usually even unaware that we have them. We simply assume that the way we see things is the way they really are, or the way they should be. And our attitudes and behaviors grow out of those assumptions. The way we see things is the source of the way we think and the way we act. Before going any further, I invite you to have an intellectual and emotional experience. Take a few seconds and just look at this picture. Now look at this second picture and carefully describe what you see. Do you see a woman? How old would you say she is? What does she look like? What is she wearing? And what kind of roles do you see her? You probably would describe the woman in the second picture to be about 25 years old. Very lovely, rather fashionable with a petite nose and a demure presence. If you were a single man, you might like to take her out. If you were in retailing, you might hire her as a fashion model. But what if I were to tell you that you're wrong? What if I said this picture is of a woman in her 60s or 70s who looks sad, has a huge nose, and is certainly no model? She's someone you probably would help across the street. Who's right? Look at the picture again. Can you see the old woman? If you can't, keep trying. Can you see her big nose, her shawl? If you and I were talking face to face, we could discuss the picture. You could describe what you see to me, and I could talk to you about what I see. We could continue to communicate until you clearly showed me what you see in the picture, and I clearly showed you what I see. Because we can't do that, study this picture. And then look at this other picture again. Can you see the old woman now? It's important that you see her before you continue reading. Now he continues, I first encountered this exercise many years ago at the Harvard Business School. The instructor was using it to demonstrate clearly and eloquently that two people can see the same thing, disagree, and yet both be right. It's not logical, it's psychological. We have the daunting task of reconstructing our de jure American government, the constitutionally guaranteed Republican form of government that we are owed. The problem is that we have not seen it in operation for 160 years. How can we know if we are taking the right road to get it reconstructed? Since 1998, when our hereditary head of state restored our American civil government, our federation has been traveling many roads to get our states of the Union to full seatment, and our Republican Union states fully operational too. We don't have a map at all. Their perspectives have changed over the years. We have people starting from different locations with different vantage points when they jump on board. These have been the challenges we face. When your paradigms shift, you very well may find that what you thought was true is not the truth at all, but just simply a different perception of the same reality. Can that even be possible? Did Harvard Business School just prove to you that indeed it is? In this episode, I will present you with the paradigms that the PKTF is working from to map out the most expedient route to get our American government reconstructed and recognized by our government services providers and by the American public. I hope to create a paradigm shift in the minds of you nationals who are currently building your assemblies, and even those of you who have left the assemblies for your own reasons, and in the minds of those of you who do not yet comprehend that an American and a U.S. citizen is not one and the same. Time is of the essence. We are on a time constraint to get our American government in position to take back control of the governance of this nation. The time frame that I have determined is 2024 to 2028. I will speak more on this in a later segment of this video. Even since our States of the Union have been called into session in 2019, our country is still in the state of emergency that was declared by President Abraham Lincoln. Our federation ended that state of emergency on paper, but it has not ended in the day-to-day lives of the people. What I hope to accomplish with this Pulse report is to shift specific paradigms you have been operating under to ones that can serve to move us in a more direct path to getting us there faster and positioning our American government to be competent to govern the people. How do we know if we are even following the correct roadmap when our government has not been operational for 160 years? We have to know something about the destination to which we are traveling in order to know when we have arrived at the right place. That is where our Federation's Living Law Firm comes in. They did the historical research to discover the truth behind the fraud perpetrated against America and the American people, and how our founders originally structured our government. With that research, we were able to create a roadmap with correct landmarks that were originally a part of our American government structure. Diving deep into their research and our fiduciaries' articles, I designed a Reconstruction Roadmap that the Peacekeeping Task Force will be using to get our American government to our final destination, which is a total reconstruction of 50 Union states and their instrumentalities. We are looking for 4 states who will want to work closely with us to spearhead this initiative to get their state to full reconstruction by 2028. Again, I will tell you why that time frame later on in this video. Right now, let me present to you our American government's Reconstruction Roadmap. As I explain these landmarks that you see on this Reconstruction Roadmap, I will introduce you to some paradigm shifts that I underwent that you will now face as you listen to my explanations. If your perception is different from mine, put it in the comments below and explain why you see it differently. Then I challenge you to attempt to see it my way. And let me know in the comments if you experienced a paradigm shift. Looking back decades ago, I have observed that the American people started taking back their right to self-governance from 2 directions. It started here on the ground level in local communities, with county jural assemblies organizing and common law grand juries convening around 2010. And it started here across the globe with the diplomatic actions of our nation's head of state and the Federation Fiduciary in 1998, which led into bringing all 50 states of the Union into General Assembly, into session in 2019. You can see that Americans have been at this for a while, but we still are not experiencing a significant change in our rights and freedoms in our daily lives. I am hoping that the map that I have laid out here will serve to collapse time by bringing these 2 efforts on the ground and the diplomacy together in a way that will accelerate the positive change we are wanting to achieve and produce the visible and impactful results of that change in how we are governed day to day. I propose that we bring the efforts of these 2 starting points together in one coordinated strategic plan. The Federation has the diplomatic role of presenting our case to the Pope, the High Courts, the Vatican Chancery Court, the International Court of Justice, the U.S. military, and all the equal principles on that level. Our case is that our Federation of States is the lawful de jure government of this country. They have proved that we are the only organization with the standing, provenance, and the continuity of evidence that demonstrates this to be the truth. So all the others who are making claims, like Russell J. Gould, Keith Livingway and the Reign of Heavens, RUSA, the Republic of the United States of America, and their president, James Geiger, and even our federal government service providers, the U.S. military and President Donald Trump and their federal United States citizens. They all must join us in our reconstruction efforts. In 2021, our federation made this admission to the high courts. We can do no more until that day when the Union states are again properly declared and repopulated and a Continental Congress is convened. Meantime, our duty and the obligation of all our treaty partners and allies remains clear. We present the people of the states of America in the international and global venues and wield the powers of state for their protection and benefit. All the delegated powers have returned to us by operation of law. We have accepted them. We are here peacefully doing our duty, and nobody on this planet has any cause to object or interfere or protest any lack of standing on our parts. We are properly declared, organized, and have our provenance in hand. The high courts of the world can directly observe this for themselves and examine the records to their heart's delight. The Vatican Chancery Court has already admitted that we have standing. The other major job that the Federation has is to recoup and recover the assets that belong to the American people, which has been hypothecated by the British territorial U.S. Congress and confiscated by the Federal Reserve Banks and the British territorial U.S. military mercenaries. To accomplish this, the Federation has chartered a global banking system, rebranded as prosperity centers, to return these purloined assets back to everyone, both your public and your private assets. Since the Federation has no direct interface with the counties, I asked the Federation's fiduciary, since people have the right to self-govern and do not have to use our 1779 declarations, but can create their own to reclaim their political status as an American, how does the Federation know of those local counties who are assembling their government? Her answer, the counties have to just let the Federation know. My follow-up question then, how does the counties do that? The Federation has created a liaison office called a State Assembly Coordinator for this purpose. You counties who are organizing will need to let the Federation know you exist by reaching out to your state assemblies, whom you should have direct interface with in the course of them carrying out their duties. Let's look at our Reconstruction Roadmap again. In the old days, state coordinators acted as circuit riders. Circuit riders went door to door, appointing a place and time for the State Assembly to meet. Today, we call these people coordinators, and they are more likely to pick up a telephone or send an email. The coordinators facilitate meetings of the State Assemblies and may do this by setting up teleconferences or renting meeting halls or arranging a picnic. The coordinator is there to bring people together in safe and equitable surroundings to conduct business for the state. The coordinator, then known as circuit riders, were trained and hired to post public notices, arrange meetings, set meeting times and places, and assist in organizing the assemblies at both the state and the county levels. Counties met on a monthly basis. They held elections in the autumn to determine local deputies to attend the State Assembly session. As state coordinators carry out this aspect of their job responsibilities as circuit riders, the state assemblies will naturally become informed of the county assemblies that are organizing on their states. And how does one become a state coordinator? Let the fiduciary for the Federation of States explain. Listen.
There seems to be a misunderstanding that is floating around. And it goes back to the early days when we began the entire process of assembling. to begin with, we had to solicit volunteers to act as coordinators in each of the 50 states straight off the street. Okay? And then the Federation then went through the whole process, trained, vetted, and all the rest. And they became the very first coordinators to help organize each state of the Union. Then, as the state assemblies got organized in their own right, we have allowed the state assemblies to bring forward people that they would like to act as coordinators. And we've trained them and vetted them, and they've become coordinators too. What's essential is that it's an American state national of that state who volunteers. Okay? So we've been open to having people brought forward by the assemblies. We're open to people who volunteer straight off the street, people that have just, gotten involved and want to do the training. But there's nothing sacrosanct about how a person comes to be a coordinator. How do they come to volunteer? Are they coming from within the assembly or from outside the assembly? It really doesn't matter to us. To the Federation, what we're looking for are people that have some skills, who have some drive, who really want to see their state up and standing. And we deal with each individual as they come through the door. So I think maybe some of the state assemblies thought that these were state positions, and they're not. They never have been. They never will be. So state vetting for coordinator positions is not the way to do it. The Federation vets Federation positions. State vets the state assembly positions. And, that's just logic, right? So we have tougher vetting standards than most states of the Union. And we go deeper, and we spend more time, and we spend more money, frankly, vetting our coordinators and our marshals at arms candidates, simply because we have to. Okay, these are important positions. They have to be people of goodwill. They have to be people of good character. And we do everything that we can to make sure that they are. Now, they might have different political views than you do, individually. They might have certain skills that other people don't have. But in all cases, we're going to be looking for people who are honest and not given to, what can I describe it? Drama. we want calm, unflappable, steady as she goes, fair-minded, mature individuals in those positions. And so that's the kind of person we're looking for. And we even published a listing of good coordinator characteristics. These are the sorts of people we want in these positions. And always we're looking for someone who is essentially kind, stable, and who is going to bring those same attributes forward in the work they do for us, all of us, both the Federation and the state. So there really isn't any prerogative in terms of who becomes a coordinator. There's nothing magic about the process. We are looking for American state nationals who want to see their state stood up and functioning, and who can bring those apolitical, practical, unflappable kinds of personality traits and skills to the fore. I hope that clears up some of the confusion about how some coordinators were recommended by the state and some weren't. Okay?
County organizing becomes a natural outcome from the state coordinators carrying out their circuit rider responsibilities. Let's take another look at our American Government Reconstruction Roadmap. Our original American government structure actually has two state assemblies. State coordinators can work for either one, helping to assemble the four pillars of the International State of the Union Assembly, the Nevada Assembly, for example, and or helping to organize the statewide Union State Assembly, the Nevada Union State Assembly, comprised of the county assemblies. So you can see on our map, we have a Union State Assembly and a State of the Union Assembly. The Nevada Union State Assembly, for example, and the Nevada Assembly. So in our Reconstruction efforts, we have to build two state assemblies, the Nevada Assembly government and the Nevada Union State Assembly government. So our state coordinators have the responsibility of helping us to build two state assemblies. Because the land and soil are inextricably combined, eligibility as a soil jurisdiction Republican state national or citizen automatically qualifies one to be a state national or state citizen. And for practical purposes, people from the Republican states act as people representing their state in the international jurisdiction, so that both land and soil are populated at the same time and by the same people. Only some of them are further tasked to do the business for the state. County assemblies are populated as the state assembly is populated. So people serve as county assemblymen and women as more and more people come in through the state assembly process. It is then up to them to hold meetings and discuss local issues and begin the process of establishing their county courts, electing their assembly sheriffs, and organizing county militia units. So you can see how this is a natural outgrowth from state coordinators running their circuits from county to county. Let me show you how this reconstruction logically and systematically progresses. The State General Assembly is composed of electors. Both state nationals and state citizens can serve as electors of the General Assembly. They are chosen at the county level by people who are qualified members of the soil jurisdiction Republican states. Two electors act as deputies or fiduciary officers for each county. Most states hold their General Assembly after the Christmas holidays, and it can run for as little as a weekend or stretch on for months, depending on the business that has to be addressed. Right now, our states of the union are in constant session every month, some bi-weekly. The county assemblies meet monthly. Our states of the union assemblies are finding this to be a difficult paradigm to comprehend. So let me explain it in the words of our Federation's fiduciary. I'm going to read two emails that she wrote to our one and only Union State Coordinator, Rocky Roper from Nevada, who is spearheading the reconstruction of the Union State Assembly efforts. As you know, coordinators step forward as ASN, or American State Nationals, volunteers, are trained and take up their task of helping their state get organized. But there are actually two states that are being organized to one degree or another at the same time. The State of the Union, which is what we are concentrating on right now, and the Union State arising from the counties, which is becoming another focus as counties get organized. It is my understanding Rocky stepped forward to assist as a co-coordinator, has been vetted, and so accepted as a coordinator in Nevada. That doesn't mean he is the only coordinator in Nevada. There may have been a confusion as to which state he is helping to organize, the State of the Union or the Union State at the county level. I suggested that Nevadans resolve any such confusion by continuing to call the State of the Union Assembly the Nevada Assembly, and calling the Union State Assembly the Nevada Union State Assembly. Please talk to him and iron things out so that everyone knows what is going on. Everyone in Nevada is eligible to participate as part of the population of the Union State at the county level, or the State of the Union level, or both. Now, the second email from our Federation's fiduciary. On May 31st, Rocky Roper sent this to me, says, Louise, Anna sent me this information. Can we use it in the model county information? She writes, people may not have realized this yet, but when you join a state assembly, you also automatically populate a county and a county assembly too. These two assemblies operate in two different jurisdictions of the law. The counties hold the national soil jurisdiction. The state holds the international land jurisdiction. But it is a little bit more complicated than that. This circumstance arises because land and soil are inextricably linked, and because each one of us is always operating in both land and soil. You can't step inside a state border without also being inside a county. We are always populating both a state and a county. We belong to both a state assembly and a county assembly. All right, here's the next important concept. When all the counties join together like a crazy quilt, they give rise to another state, the Union State. The Union State controls the national jurisdiction of the soil across your whole state. The State of the Union controls the international jurisdiction for the whole state. What you are all working on so assiduously is the international State of the Union, which has the 4 pillars and familiar state functions. But at the same time, you are populating all the counties one by one as people from every county join the effort. Some of those counties are building their county assemblies in tandem with building the State of the Union. And yes, this process means that they are ultimately building 2 states at once. Union State equals all the living people together. State of the Union equals all the lawful persons, capital P people, together. Remember, these organizations are all instrumentalities of the living people in one jurisdiction or another. And because land and soil are inextricably bound together, it makes total sense that there are 2 states also inextricably bound together. In a few places, we are beginning to rub up against this fact. We have active county assemblies springing up, getting organized, and beginning to explore the powers and responsibilities of the soil jurisdiction. They are also discovering the Union State. But remember, the Union State and the State of the Union occupy completely different jurisdictions, one national, one international. The Union State is the sovereign and independent nation state, whereas the State of the Union is the instrumentality of the same people in international venues, both land and sea. Because this fact that there are 2 state assemblies has been missed all this time, there's another functional element to our government that has consequently been missed too. It is your union state that hold your purse strings. These bodies are intended to hold the purse strings for the counties on statewide issues and sort out things like apportionments. For example, it would be unreasonable for a sparsely populated county out in West Texas to pay the same apportionment for roads as Dallas-Fort Worth. Yet both counties have state roads that need to be maintained. This is the job of your union state assemblies, to handle the land and soil issues of your national government. So how do we make this paradigm shift and start to bring these 2 efforts together? The reconstruction of our union state assemblies and our State of the Union assemblies. Let me show you what I propose. You see here on our reconstruction map, there's a map of Nevada. it has the number 2 over every county in Nevada. This is what I propose that we can do. If all state assemblies adopt this one single outreach goal as an urgent priority, as it has been given to us by our fiduciary who has given us the blueprint, we can reconstruct both the Union State and the State of the Union assemblies at the same time. This is what our fiduciary wrote in an email to me. She said, and I quote, "If they boast at least 2 eligible inheritors at the county level, they can claim that their county is populated. And that is the whole, entire, urgent, got to do it thing." Unquote. Now I ask, how urgent do you think she meant by urgent? I'm being rhetorical here. I see that there needs to be a focus on building both the states of the Union and the Union states at the same time, based on the particular facts that I have just laid out for you. Fact number 1, historically, counties elected local deputies in the autumn to attend the State General Assembly session held after the Christmas holidays. Fact number 2, state coordinators have the job of assisting in organizing the assemblies at both the state and the county levels. Fact number 3, county assemblies are populated as the state assembly is populated. Fact number 4, according to our fiduciary's call for urgency, our whole, entire, urgent, got to do it thing is each county must boast at least 2 declared nationals within their borders. Fact 5, the Union State Assemblies hold the purse strings for the county assemblies on statewide issues. Fact 6, our government structure has indeed 2 states that are inextricably bound together. Because of facts like these, I see that we need to bring these 2 efforts from the federation level summoning and the ground level county organizing together into one coordinated strategic plan to collapse the time it has been taking us to reach our Reconstruction destination. The paradigm that the states of the Union have been operating from, being as a thing is bound, so it is unbound, causes us to have to walk backwards, figuratively speaking, out of the sea jurisdiction where we were trafficked into, back onto the land jurisdiction. And walking backwards, naturally, we cannot see clearly the path we need to take. This unfortunately disorients us as we're trying to get to our destination coming out of the sea onto the land. What we have missed is the fact that there are 2 states also inextricably bound together. So when we are unbinding ourselves, what happens to the other state, the Union state, that is bound also to the states of the Union? We are bound to them both, not just the one. When I chose to step back and see the old woman perspective, I was then faced with making a paradigm shift. Which paradigm do you see? Can you now see both of them? Leave a comment below the video. Remember what I said in my introduction, using the analogy of a map of Chicago? If you were working from a wrong map, you could try harder, be more diligent, double your speed even, but your efforts could only succeed in getting you to the wrong place faster. Now, I have just illustrated one example in how we have missed things coming in backwards from the sea onto the land. I want to show you another example. There are 2 checkpoints that if you miss them in the beginning of this journey, you will never arrive at our intended destination, no matter how grandiose the effort any assembly or so-called government organization puts forth. The first checkpoint that must be at the start is your correct identity as an American must be established. And the second is the correct form of government that our nation was founded upon must be emulated. We have an identity crisis here in America in that most are not aware that an American and a United States citizen is not one and the same. Americans are nationals by birth, not of any kind of citizen, not a United States citizen, and not even an American state citizen. So you must first correct your political status on the public record to identify yourself properly as an American state national at the start. People who started this journey organizing their counties decades ago was not clear on this fact, so some of their declarations may not have properly identified themselves, or they may have just disregarded this step altogether, counting it as invalid. For a proper installation of a de jure government for this country, it first starts with a properly identified American. I explained how we do that with our 1779 declaration in the previous episode, so refer to that. The word citizen implies an obligation to serve some form of government, whether as an employee or as a serf, whether the government served is a monarchy, a republic, a city, a municipality, or in our case, a Republican form of government organized around the kitchen table, as it were. Let's look back again at our roadmap. These are federal government services providers: the British territorial United States and the municipal United States. Our government is not a democracy. It is our British territorial federal government services provider that's a democracy. It's made up of American Tories and their corporations and their employees. They are always beating that drum and making many people around the world think that our American government is a democracy, when it isn't, and it never was. In the same way, the municipal federal government service provider is a theocracy. They don't blat that around too much because Americans would jolt awake and dimly remember that in our country, there's supposed to be a separation between church and state. Each one of our federal subcontractors adopted a form of government that was distinctly different than the assembly-based government of the American people. That's called the Republican form of government. Now, our absent American federal subcontractors was set up as a Roman-style republic. Now, in theory, this should make them very recognizable, but as we stopped regularly calling our assemblies together, it appeared that we had forgotten who we are and that our American government was an interregnum, mysteriously absent and non-responsive. Due to our government's absence, most people, in error, think that our country is a democracy. A democracy, also known as mob rule. It's based on a majority opinion. To the contrary, the paramount principle of our government is to honor and respect the rights, prerogatives, and assets of the individual. My rights end where your rights begin. Our governing law is the American common law. Harm none and be harmed none. This describes a Republican form of government, which our country was founded upon. We operate from the core principle to protect the individual and their rights, no matter what the opinions of the majority are. Everyone has a voice in government, which is centered on the natural right of the individual. Everyone has the same natural rights, and everyone acts to protect and preserve those rights, because if they don't, they know that their own rights are in danger. That's our sovereign government right there. You must study it, understand its basic premises. A government of equals dedicated to protecting and preserving the rights of the individual against mob rule. Democracy embraces mob rule, which means rule of the individual by the group. If the group wants your house, they can take it. If the group wants to tax you to pay their bills, they can. That is democracy. If 51% of your neighbors want to eat you for breakfast, or use your yard for a roller derby, or rape your wife in public, well, hey, that's okay in democracy. Our American form of government is not based on groups of any kind. It is based on individualism. It says very forthrightly that the individual is owed supremacy over the group when it comes to matters of free will, conscience, religion, and property rights. In a Republican form of government, the mob can't tax you to pay for their bills. They can't take away your house or your land to serve themselves just because 51 out of 100 group members say so. Now, let's review. Number one, we are not a democracy or mob rule where a 51% majority rules and individual rights are discounted. Number two, we are not an oligarchy where a small group of leaders has power and dictates to the group. Number three, we are a Republican form of government where the rights of the individual are supreme, where respect and mutual support are paramount. Learn this. Our Reconstruction must be founded upon this. Your mission is to reclaim your stolen identity as an American state national, to assemble your county and state governments and finish the Reconstruction. The Assembly is the established structure that Americans use to organize their government, where the primary work of government gets accomplished via committees. Our Republican form of government is provided by the county level local government, occupying the sole jurisdiction, and is created when and only when people claim their birthright political status and join together to create a county assembly. The counties are the supreme local government within their physical borders. The actual county is run by a county assembly, not a council, not a commission, not a board of trustees. A county assembly, such as the Clark County Assembly. City councils are part of the territorial government, which more specifically is actually a government service provider of some of your local public services. Commissions are part of the municipal government, which more specifically is a government service provider of some of your local public services. You are none of the above. You are the third man out. You are nonetheless the actual government. County assemblies are formed by people declaring and acting in their birthright political status as Americans, not British territorial U.S. citizens, not Roman municipal citizens of the United States. So those professed so-called interim governments or committees of safety members or state drill assemblies and the like, who organized themselves decades ago, must be able to show that their counties were formed by declared American state nationals in order for our federation to recognize them as the de jure assembly government for that county and release to them the public funds. Counties are defined by its geographical borders. It is a recognizable landmass. The American people living within its borders make up its assembly. There's only one assembly per county in America by definition. So county assemblies, wherever you are, contact your state assembly so that they can verify your standing and provide your information to the fiduciary's office. First in time is first in line. Now let's look back at our Reconstruction Roadmap. Like every county in America, let's take Clark County, for example. You get to decide whether or not to continue operating your county government as a federal franchise or not. Your unincorporated body politic called Clark County Assembly gets to assemble itself whenever an American state national living in Clark County gives a 30-day notice and announces a public meeting of the land jurisdiction Clark County Assembly. The county assembly is enabled to elect its own sheriff, to serve the land jurisdiction county, to uphold the public and organic laws of Nevada and the United States of America. He or she is then the top peacekeeping officer in Clark County. He outranks by far all the hired police, all the detectives, all the commissioners on the incorporated Clark County incorporated payroll. The actual Clark County Assembly can also elect its own justices of the peace and its own court clerks and its own bailiffs, coroners, and other court officers. Our ancestors were determined that no king or government was going to control their lives again. So they made the county the fundamental political unit and supreme political jurisdiction in the American government. There isn't a corporation anywhere, inside or outside of the borders of Clark County, who has a right or a word to say otherwise, because within the borders of Clark County, the actual Clark County Assembly holds the absolute power of self-determination for that county and the people living on it. They can purge and pitch any law or statute put in place by the Clark County Incorporated service provider, and they can choose to dissolve Clark County Incorporated service provider and put an unincorporated business that is under their direct control in its place. Strange but true, the county sheriff elected by the jurors is the top public law official in the country. Within the physical borders of his county, he is the embodiment of the public law and its chief enforcer. Because he works for the soil jurisdiction, the actual county sheriff is a peacekeeping official and not a law enforcement officer. See the difference? Peacekeepers work for the people, the land, and the soil. Law enforcement officers work for the persons, meaning the corporations and their shareholders operating as incorporated states of states, like the state of Nevada, for example. We have been well and thoroughly confused and duped into thinking that their county sheriff is our county sheriff, when in fact, an unlawful conversion has taken place. Many of those operating our counties back in the 1960s took the bait of federal block grants and elected to incorporate the unincorporated counties they were working for. In doing so, they unwittingly removed and converted the actual county government into mere commercial corporations operated as franchises, like Dairy Queen franchises of territorial and municipal corporations. See episode 2, where I demonstrated that fact in detail. They handed over our sovereignty for us in exchange for racketeering kickbacks. Ironically, we are fortunate that those same people who voted for the unlawful conversion of the counties were already unwittingly functioning as incorporated persons, corporations themselves, so had no authority to give away our counties. They were merely employees of ours. They had already vacated their natural capacity as unincorporated jurors. Many counties tried to have it both ways, though, and kept the unincorporated county running and simply set up a corporation calling itself something similar like the County of Jackson instead of the proper name, Jackson County, so that the offered federal kickbacks could be laundered through the County of Jackson. This set up a situation where county officials were, for a time, and some still are, operating in two separate capacities. The sheriff elected to the unincorporated soil jurisdiction office simply put on a different hat as the occasion demanded and functioned as the sheriff of the incorporated county too. But our ancestors set it up so that no man can serve two masters. The problem is that our actual counties are political subdivisions of our states, and they occupy an entirely different jurisdiction, that of the land and soil, which does not recognize or tolerate any form of dual citizenship at all. The land and soil jurisdiction of this country does not allow us to operate in incorporated and unincorporated capacity at the same time. It's one or the other. Either you operate as the actual sheriff of the unincorporated county and state, or you operate as a sheriff of an incorporated county franchise of a state of state. See the difference? There is a Macon County sheriff working for Georgia the actual state. And then out of the blue, there's suddenly a county of Macon, and the sheriff of the county of Macon is working for the territorial state of Georgia Incorporated instead. There's a sleight of hand presto changeo happening here. 1 minute you are standing on the land and soil, and your county sheriff is your county sheriff, and the next minute it's a patsy working for a foreign corporation. The Clark County Assembly is different from the corporate version of Clark County Incorporated. The Assembly is the actual government body politic, as opposed to a representational body who simply provides you with governmental services. Instead of handing over your proxies to an agent elected to act in your stead as a member of the board of directors of Clark County, calling himself a public official, the people have the absolute retained right to conduct your own business and to bypass the use of any agent to do your business. It's the difference between sending your servant to the town to conduct your business for you or doing it yourself. Whereas anyone can be elected to serve as a public official for Clark County Incorporated, including lawyers and municipal U.S. citizens, not just anyone can be a member of the actual Clark County Assembly. The actual unincorporated Clark County Assembly is composed of American state nationals and Nevada state citizens living in Clark County, Nevada. They have to be either natural born or naturalized Nevadans, and they have to be claiming their political status in order to be members of the actual unincorporated Clark County Assembly. The people properly claiming their birthright political status are then enabled to crack the whip and tell the members of the Clark County Incorporated Corporation what to do and how to do it, and can even tell the public officials elected to serve on the board of Clark County Incorporated to dissolve Clark County Incorporated and resume operations as an unincorporated county. So in actuality, Clark County Incorporated is a governmental services provider, not the government at all. If the Clark County Assembly decided to dissolve them, it would mean an end to federal corporation kickbacks, but it also means an end to federal taxation and federal debt obligations, federal regulation, and corruption in general. Not all counties in the country are incorporated, meaning that some of them didn't take the bait of federal block grants in order to maintain their independence. We are finding that most counties fit in this group and did not specifically or publicly adopt being incorporated. Like the rest of us, they were apparently told you have to do this by federal agents. So they changed the style or ordering of their names and unwittingly created new corporate persons that were assumed to be operating as federal franchises. There are 3,143 counties in America, according to a Google search, and people living in all of them. You all need to do some research into your own county's history to find out the actual status of your county government. Most likely, the British territorial state-of-state franchises simply moved in after the mercenary conflict, aka American Civil War, and have operated like cuckoo birds in a robin's nest ever since. Do you get that analogy? Do you know what cuckoo birds are known for? Cuckoo birds are best known for brood parasitism, a behavior where they lay their eggs in the nests of other species, leaving unsuspecting foster parents to raise their young. Now, while the incorporated counties are receiving federal block grants, those block grants are the result of federal corporation racketeering and pillaging carried out against your own assets, your own people, your own businesses, and your own land. You are funding your own misery and demise. As long as your county takes this bait and operates as a corporate franchise, it has no standing and no credibility as any part of our legitimate government. It's just a governmental services provider for hire, like Mike's Security Service or Fast Eddie's Carpet Cleaning. And it is the same with your state government. In America, we have over 19,500 towns, but none of them are American. A county or parish for Louisiana or borough for Alaska may have townships, villages, and/or cities, but none of them are American. These are smaller political subunits within the county that often have their own town halls or city halls, and these may be reorganized to locally select delegates to serve on the county assembly or not. It just depends on how the local government within the county wants to structure itself and how assemblymen are chosen. For proof of the fact that these are not American, take a look at your local election ballots. Here's a sample ballot of my local town's elections. Here we are voting for municipal public officials and township public officials. What you need to know is that any word with ship attached to it refers to the sea jurisdiction that is partly overseen by our British territorial government services provider, not the land and soil jurisdiction that is overseen exclusively by our American government. All the same circumstances that applies to our counties also applies to organizing our American towns, such as the American state national living in the town gives a 30-day notice and announces a public meeting of the unincorporated soil jurisdiction town assembly. This is what you already really know as the annual town meeting. At these town meetings, the people living in those townships or cities or villages can choose to continue to run their townships or cities or villages as an incorporated franchise of the federal government service providers to provide them with governmental services and let anyone serve as their public officials. Or they can assemble themselves forswear federal kickbacks in favor of freedom from federal taxes, debts, and regulations, and run their own local government at both the township and city levels by sending delegates to their local county assembly government. The people convening your town meetings must provide proof of their declared political status as an American state national, recorded and published on the public record. Proof of renouncing any United States or other citizenship and claiming back their political status as Nevadans, for example. They are now free of any presumption of voluntarily acting as a British territorial U.S. citizen or a Roman municipal citizen of the United States. They emerge as the priority creditors and underwriter of both of the federal United States corporations and all territorial states-to-states corporations and all local municipal franchise corporations like the County of Clark, the Las Vegas Township, or the City of Las Vegas. They are free men and women attending to the business of their own town, acting through a local town assembly, if the townspeople so choose this organizational structure. It should now be clear just how vital your participation in your own local government is, and how that participation or lack thereof impacts every aspect of your daily life. It is for this reason and this reason alone why you have not experienced any significant change in your rights and freedoms in your daily lives. You have not organized your own local de jure American government. This makes clear how important your political status is. As a United States citizen, you are presumed to be a federal corporation employee. As a citizen of the United States, you are presumed to be a slave owned by the federal municipal corporation doing business as the United States, Inc. Unless you are actually employed by the federal government as a military or federal civilian employee, why would you ever claim to be a United States citizen otherwise, subject to federal territorial law? Unless you were truly desperate for political asylum or other aid of some kind, why would you ever agree to be considered a slave and chattel owned by the United States, Inc.? Nobody in their right mind would knowingly and willingly choose that fate. instead of wanting to be a free man. The statewide Land and Soil Jurisdiction Assembly of Counties, represented here as the Nevada Union State Assembly, does business as the Nevada Republic for the soil and the Republic of Nevada for the surface water jurisdiction. The counties all come together and select 3 deputies each to act as their fiduciary officers at the state assembly level. This is where the state republic comes into play. Just as the counties occupy the soil jurisdiction, the state republics occupy the land jurisdiction. Hence, we have the Land and Soil Jurisdiction, Nevada Union State Assembly, and state republics. The Republic of Nevada is responsible for doing the business of the soil jurisdiction people and counties with the rest of the world, including the other states. When the Republic of Nevada elects 3 delegates to attend a Congress, we are talking about a continental Congress of the kind that issued the unanimous Declaration of Independence. So note that the national soil jurisdiction republics form a continental Congress when they meet. The international land and sea jurisdiction of the states of the Union form the United States in Congress assembled when they meet. As you can see that each jurisdiction has their own DBAs through which they carry out their business to provide the public with governmental services. DBAs are instrumentalities of government, not the government itself. What you are now calling your village government or your township government or your county or state or even your United States federal government are not governments at all. They are government service providers, DBAs. Your lawful government has been absent for 150 years, but is now being reconstructed. Your government is your unincorporated assemblies and the Federation of States. This Reconstruction Roadmap lays out for you how it used to operate and what needs to be reconstructed in order to bring it back into full operation. This can only be done by declared American state nationals, not by the United States citizens. What needs to happen is Americans need to take our place as the employers of these government services providers by reconstructing our county and state assemblies and put these government service providers under our new management. Then the people will indeed be exercising our right to assemble and begin to experience a positive impact in our daily lives from this change as we restore our own rights and freedoms. Here's what has happened. There was originally a confederation of the states of states that did business as the states of America. It was enabled to carry out all the business of the states in several jurisdictions: international jurisdiction of the sea, territorial jurisdiction, municipal jurisdiction, commercial global jurisdiction. Our States of America Confederation was a jack of all trades, operating in all the jurisdictions of the sea and the air, owned and operated by the American states and people. The 3 constitutions that I first spoke of in episode 2 served to break up these functions of this original confederation doing business as the States of America and divide its services among the American Federal Republic subcontractor, called the United States, Inc., a British territorial subcontractor, called the United States of America, Inc., and a Roman municipal subcontractor, called the United States, Inc. See where the confusion comes in with the similar names? The States of America is not included in this Reconstruction map, and neither is the federal state republics, because the Confederation and the Federal Republic went defunct following the illegal mercenary conflict, aka American Civil War, aka military coup, under President Abraham Lincoln. Whether to reconstruct them or not has yet to be determined. That is what the United States in Congress assembled will decide. The British government was so bent on controlling both our commerce, which is business between incorporated entities, and dominating our international trade policies, which is business between unincorporated businesses, that after the hostilities of the mercenary conflict ceased, they usurped against all our national level states of states, which we historically referred to as the North and the South, and mothballed them pending their reconstruction, and rolled over all their assets into state land trusts, operated under the names like the Nevada State. This gave the appearance that since our national level states of states were no longer operating in the international jurisdiction of the sea, that our government as a whole was in abeyance and being held in trust, pending reconstruction. And that is how the perpetrators of this massive criminal fraud scheme have presented the situation to the rest of the world for the last 150 years. They next imposed upon the sovereign states and engineered the writing of new state constitutions, which, undisclosed to the people, were not rewrites of the existing national level state constitutions, but were instead completely new constitutions, allowing the British-backed territorial level state-of-state organizations to take over and control everything. The national level states of states doing business, for example, the state of Nevada with the capital T, were secretively replaced by territorial level states of states doing business as the state of Nevada Incorporated, lowercase t, but they conveniently leave off the incorporated part. These you will find registered with a Dun & Bradstreet number at their website as government services corporations. The names were deliberately and deceptively similar so that to Joe Average, nothing appeared to have changed. There was a state of Nevada doing business before the war and a state of Nevada doing business after it, and they appeared to be the same, albeit one was authorized to act in behalf of the actual land jurisdiction state of the Union, and the other was a foreign British-backed, unauthorized usurper. This is in complete breach of trust, fraud, and violation of commercial contracts. And it is what must now be addressed by the American people and the sovereign land jurisdiction states of the original unincorporated Union of States doing business as the United States of America. The aim here is to restore and empower our missing national level states of states to their rightful power and position, enabling them to act in behalf of the actual land jurisdiction states, revesting all assets held in the state land trust back to the actual states and people. That is, the assets held by the Nevada State Trust must be revested back to Nevada in the original national level state of state doing business as the capital T state of Nevada, must revest to take over the bankrupt territorial state of Nevada and the liquidated municipal state of Nevada assets as the priority creditors and holder in due course the actual employers. Both the United States of America unincorporated as the Federation and the sovereign land jurisdiction states individually are still operating and still standing peaceably on the land they are heir to. All assets of the Nevada state belong to Nevada and are not chattel backing the bankruptcy of any territorial state of Nevada or any municipal state of Nevada presumed to exist. All assets of the state of Nevada likewise belong to Nevada, despite immoral and despicable British meddling in our national affairs under conditions of breach of trust, deceit, fraud, fraudulent claims of war, and unauthorized emergency powers. And now that we have that clear, the United States of America unincorporated, the Federation, has directed the international bankruptcy trustees to return those assets held in trust by the territorial state of Nevada and the municipal state of Nevada back to Nevada, the state of the Union, and all the other states of the Union for that matter, while the people are busily restoring their county assemblies and their state republic DBAs. Let me show you on the map how our state of the Union owns the state of state. So the Nevada Assembly owns the state of Nevada, Confederate state. The state of Nevada, which has been mothballed since 1868, along with all the other actual federal states of states, is an American state corporation held under Nevada's sovereign letters patent. These states of states can be called federal states of states since they belong to states that are members of the Federation of States, or they can be called Confederate states because they are members of the States of America Confederation formed under the Articles of Confederation in 1781. It was the Confederation of States that created the federal state republics that formed our American Federal Republic. Because it was set up as a Roman-style republic, it was called the Federal Republic. This Federal Republic was created to mirror the state republics on the national land and soil jurisdiction that did business as the United States. And they even gave it the same name, the United States, but with a lowercase t, of course. Today, our Federation government has resumed the governmental services of our American Federal Republic under the DBA, the United States of America Republic, by operation of law. Our national government now has the job of reconstructing their own state republic DBAs that can resume its governmental services functions as well. It should be apparent that the government on the land has not organized and exerted its own sovereignty properly, a problem that Americans are rapidly addressing now that they realize that what has been passing as a state government is merely a corporate state-of-state franchise. Our national level states of states vanished without a trace, but the actual states and the people did not vanish. We are still here, simply left without a viable American service provider, and conveniently not having it explained to the American public because the other foreign federal subcontractors were eager to take over. Congress simply means a meeting. Every jurisdiction convenes its own Congress to address all the matters pertaining to that jurisdiction. The land and soil jurisdiction overseen by the United States has its Congress. The land and sea jurisdictions overseen by the States of the Union has its Congress. The global jurisdiction overseen by the States of States has its Congress. The territorial jurisdiction overseen by the British government subcontractor has its Congress. And the municipal jurisdiction overseen by the Roman municipal government has its Congress. For example, when each new state issued its own currency for the purposes of trade back after the Revolutionary War was won, some of the new states did a better, more responsible job of this than the others and prospered. But some states suffered inflation and other ills of bad monetary policy, aided by the British counterfeiting of the American states' currencies, all of which served to undermine the stability and economic viability of the new states. Their first attempt to issue a mutual international currency, the continental dollar, was counterfeited and inflated into oblivion. So another Congress was called, and this was a meeting in Congress of the United States in Congress assembled. Please notice the exact words and styles of the words jointly and severally. The United States, meaning those states that derived from the original colonies and their union of states formed by the unanimous Declaration of Independence. They did what? They assembled for a meeting, a Congress, but it was no longer a continental Congress. It was the United States Congress. And why? Because this body of delegates was meeting to discuss business that concerned a different jurisdiction. They were next meeting to discuss political issues, for example, international trade and financial, that is, currency issues. Every Congress since then has met to address these sorts of issues. There has never again been a continental Congress held to specifically address land and soil issues. As you page through the history of this country, you will find that there have been many different kinds of Congresses called to meet, both in Philadelphia at our nation's capital and later in Washington, D.C. at our federal capital. The topics that these Congresses addressed and the nature and composition of the delegations attending these meetings have changed over time. This is always indicated by the records kept of these meetings. Thus, we have the Continental Congress, the United States in Congress assembled, the United States of America in Congress assembled, the Congress of the United States of America, the Congress of the United States, the Congress of the United States of America, and so on. Any idea or impression that there is now or has ever been an entity known as the Congress representing this country is just that, an impression, not a truth, not an actuality. Instead, what has happened over time is that a practice of electing congressional delegations has developed, and whatever kind of Congress meets. It has been 160 years since we have convened a properly constituted Continental Congress to take care of business. Doing so requires us to assemble as local assemblies, elect people who are acting as state citizens to fill our vacated county government offices, elect state offices in the same way, and finally, elect state deputies to serve as delegates to our Continental Congress. As you all need to be aware, our government works from the bottom up and not the top down. Thus, any attempt to simply elect new members to a separate so-called de jure Congress and operate from the top down, as was presumably done by Rusa, is provably unworkable and fraudulent. It is absolutely necessary for the people to organize themselves as local assemblies first, and so to operate a county and state government on the land jurisdiction of their states. At each step, power diminishes. The people hold all the power in our government. They delegate a portion of power to the counties for the elected county officers to administer. The counties delegate power to the state, and the states together contract and delegate some of their remaining powers to the federal government, which is dead last on our totem pole of power sharing. You may think, well, we've got the Republic of Nevada and we don't need anything else. That's like thinking you are good to go with only one wheel on your car. It's the same phenomenon we see with people organizing grand juries without organizing the court that the grand jury is supposed to be part of, or organizing state juror assemblies without organizing the state assembly that the juror assemblies are supposed to be a part of. It seems that people have this tendency to latch onto a part of the structure and concentrate on that one part and get so focused on that they can't see beyond it and integrate what they are doing into the larger framework that is necessary. Unfortunately, we see this phenomenon too happening with our States of the Union Reconstruction efforts as well. To organize States of the Union assemblies, you would need to organize the Union's county assemblies first that is supposed to be created from. These people also tend to get very territorial and defensive about what they are doing, and instead of bringing their part to the whole, think that the whole should be subject to them. The PKTF has designed this Reconstruction Roadmap, putting together all the working parts into one view so we can get into focus how it all should fit together and be reconstructed in a methodical way so that we don't miss important checkpoints. When I originally introduced the American Government's Resurgence Project to the International Outreach Think Tank, then it was called the 1776 Union Project, back in 2004, I mentioned that Trump is our bridge to taking our place on the world stage as the American government. I saw him as playing a pivotal role in our endeavor because of the alleged story behind the man that I had uncovered. Him losing the 2020 race and winning the 2024 race could be viewed as a strategic move in the U.S. military's plan carried out under the guise of a stolen election. They could have used the first presidency to groom America and win our favor for what they had planned for his second term, the war and the chaos due to the imminent United States Inc. franchise corporation's liquidation. Or it could be viewed as a tit-for-tat battle to gain the upper hand between the warring factions on the battlefield, between the quote-unquote good aliens and the quote-unquote bad aliens, to secure control over the people of our planet on one side, or set the people of the planet free on the other side. This war has been ongoing behind the scenes for eons. His presidencies are admittedly a part of a U.S. military operation that he was hired to do. Yes, but not only that. According to the alleged story I uncovered, the Galactic Federation of Worlds that our Federation fiduciary does not speak too fondly of hired him too, in a manner of speaking, to work with them. The narrative touted is that his job is to wake the people up. Now, depending on whether you are looking at this from the young ladies' frame of reference or the old ladies' frame of reference, will dictate how you interpret what you are watching play out. Let me show you a video clip from this remote viewer, Elizabeth April, explain how she interprets it.
So it seems like a lot of you are getting pretty wrapped up in this whole Donald Trump thing. Yeah, just him as a man in general. Look, I'm Canadian, I'm bipartisan, I do not believe in voting, and I also don't believe in either side. Cool, if you want to stop the video here, do that. But let me remind you of what Donald Trump's sole mission is on this planet. Bunch of years ago, I decided to remote view and check into what soul signs up for that meat suit? What soul signs up for that role? And my biggest question is, what is his mission? What is he here to do? And back then, everyone was calling him some sort of savior or cosmic, galactic, I don't know, ambassador. So I wanted to know. And here's what I saw. Donald Trump's soul signed up to be the bringer of chaos. He is meant to be the disruptor. I don't know about you, but I think he's doing a bang-up job of exactly that. So no matter what side you are on, no matter how you view politics right now, what we need is a systemic collapse. Because what that creates is suffering and challenge and polarity. And when we have a mix of all of these things, it creates questioning. All of a sudden, people start waking up from the programming, from the narrative, from the projections, and they start asking themselves, does this system serve me? Does it serve the collective? And if not, what else could? We need to clear the old in order to create the new. One of the things that I wrote down was, when traditional systems collapse, alternative solutions are born. He is just collapsing things. He is not here to rebirth. He is not here to save us. And he is definitely not here to create new solutions. He is here to make everyone take a look at the old systems and then force us all to demand change. What do you think?
Now, let me give you our fiduciary's perspective. During his first term, our fiduciary interprets his actions like this. Mr. Trump is fully honoring his duty as commander-in-chief and protecting America and Americans. For that, he is to be lauded and loved. A great many other presidents have grossly abused their position of trust and have allowed personal cowardice and/or self-interest to enter into their decision-making processes. I respect Donald Trump and so should everyone else. He does not act as a lobbyist for the Republican Party, and he does not back down for the Democrat lobbyists either. He charts a course that is best for America as a whole and keeps steady on. We should all be grateful to and for Donald Trump, including the millions of rank-and-file Democrats who have listened to their party leadership and the so-called mainstream media instead of using their own eyes and noses. Whatever Donald Trump's Piccadilly roster may include, he is 1, devoted to America, 2, an excellent businessman, 3, a generous heart. He has, without undue pressure on the public purse, vastly increased employment opportunities, especially for women, Blacks, and Hispanics, expanded our economy, regained control of destructive trade agreements, and is working to secure our border, without which we don't have a country anymore. That was January 2019. During his second term in 2026, she interprets his actions like this. Take notice, all peoples of the earth. The government being run by Donald J. Trump is still a quasi-military oligarchy, and its leaders have not come home, have not avowed their loyalty to the states of the Union, have not restored the struck American flag hanging in the congressional chambers to its upright horizontal position, have not honored their delegators by flying the peacetime flag of this country. Until they do this, this country must be assumed to be under an illegal mercenary occupation. May 1st, 2026. Now, can both perceptions be true? From the young lady and then the old lady's frame of reference? Yes, they can. Which is why you need to use discernment to make an accurate judgment of the situation you are perceiving from both sides, and even forward and backward, sideways, upside, and down for that matter. We must be able to make a paradigm shift when we take in contrary information to what we have previously accepted. Our fiduciary proposes for the removal of the conscienceless evildoers and liars who are responsible for all this chaos and killing, no matter what planet, timeline, heritage, or nation you are from. Let us take it from here. Because what they could have done instead is simply tell America the truth and forego this theater that they are subjecting us to. But they didn't. They instead chose the chaos route, and Trump is the pivotal player in this. And they forced open a window of opportunity between 2024 and 2028. What they have done to tear down the old regime has created a vacuum that must be filled now, not later. It must be filled by our free will choice to self-govern and reconstruct our rightful de jure government peacefully. And it must be filled before the window closes. Trump's term is coming to an end in January 2029. Our American government needs to be in position by the end of 2028. When it does, or something undesirable may come in to fill the void by operation of the laws of metaphysics. I just told you that our fiduciary is requiring that our American flag be returned to its upright position from a struck position in the congressional chambers, and that our peacetime flag be flown. I told you, America and the world, back in episode 3, that the peacetime flag needs to be raised. Let me educate you on the significance of these two requirements. A struck flag is a flag displayed in a vertical downward position, hanging straight down rather than in the normal horizontal position. It is a formal maritime signal and serious legal and diplomatic meaning. A struck flag traditionally signifies distress, incompetence, bankruptcy, or that a government or entity is in abeyance and in distress. The actual flag of the American Federal Republic has been displayed in the struck position in the Capitol Rotunda and in the House and Senate chambers for over 150 years. This struck flag has been hanging there since the Rump Congress during the Civil War, giving notice to all who understand its meaning that the government it represents is down. This display is particularly significant because it has remained in plain view for generations. Yet most Americans, and even U.S. military personnel who saw it in person or on C-SPAN, never understood what the struck position actually meant. The struck flag in the Capitol serves as a witness to the actual facts of Americans' governmental status. This shows a disrespect to the flag and failure to recognize what its struck position signifies. Represents a big lie that has been tolerated for 6 generations. When you see it finally return to an upright position, that will signify to America that the illegal mercenary occupation by the U.S. military has ceased. Now, even more than that, further recognition needs to be made. As you will notice on our Reconstruction map, we fly the Peacetime flag, the United States civil flag. Pursuant to the law flag, a military flag does result in jurisdictional implications when flown. It could mean war. By the doctrine of four cornering, the flag establishes the law of the country that it represents. When you enter an embassy, you are subject to the laws of that country, just as if you board a ship flying a foreign flag. You will be subject to the laws of that flag, enforceable by the master of the ship, the captain, by the law of the flag. The attachment of gold fringe on the flag constitutes a mutilization of the flag and represents color of law jurisdiction and suspends the people's private rights. The military shall not try civilians as it constitutes an act of war against the people. The civilian flag of the United States of America with no fringe takes precedence over all other flags. It is the superior flag and establishes the civil jurisdiction of the United States of America and the laws made in pursuance thereof. The jurisdiction of the courts of the United States is described as the American flag of peace. Red, white, and blue with stripes of red and white horizontally placed in alteration. Under the jurisdiction of the American flag of peace, the private rights of the sovereign people of the United States are protected and all rights are preserved. Here, the people are innocent until proven guilty. Under the military gold-fringed flag, there are no rights. All administrative agencies of the United States, Inc. shall immediately remove all gold-fringed military flags from their offices and courtrooms and shall display the civilian flag of peace. Take notice that since the delegated powers of the Confederation returned to the United States of America unincorporated, we fly the United States civil flag and maintain the United States Post Office, which is appropriate because the actual government of this country has not been at war since 1814. This is a perfectly legitimate federal flag, and we, the United States of America unincorporated, are fully empowered to fly it. America, if you all are flying the Title IV flag on non-military installation enclaves on the American soil, it is deemed an act of war against the constitutions and America's lawful government. Our Title IV military flags that are now waving on top of non-military installations need to be lowered and our peacetime flag raised. Raised on every government building, every courthouse, every patriot's home, every flagpole, every public building, wherever our military flag now flies, it needs to be lowered and our peacetime flag raised. There's only one legitimate government left standing in the international jurisdiction of the air, land, and sea, and it is the United States of America and an unincorporated federation of free and independent states. With that said, you will notice that the Title IV flag flies at all U.S. post offices and all USPS service centers. There is a separate contract with the Universal Postal Union allowing this, and it does not imply that we are in any general sense subject to municipal authority, even though we administer civil government functions on our land and soil, and within the context of our retained Amendment 10 powers. And absolutely none of these civil government functions exercised by any international or global power have anything whatsoever to do with the actual civilian government of this country, aside from our obligation to serve the states and the people. As we shift this reconstruction into high gear, our American peacekeepers will be coordinating with our government services providers across this country to oversee and instruct them on the ceremonial raising of our peacetime flag. Give yourself permission to question and challenge the paradigms you're operating from. If you don't, you might be unpleasantly surprised to find that you have arrived at the wrong destination. The state assemblies follow this paradigm that says we have to stand our assemblies at the state level first, because as a thing is bound, so it is unbound. With that, what I have noticed is that walking in backwards from the sea to the land disoriented us and has gotten us off on the wrong path. We severed the inherent synergistic relationship the two state assemblies had with each other. The land and soil jurisdiction of the one was conferred onto the other against what our forefathers originally intended according to their idea of isolationism, which means they meant for the international jurisdiction, the land and sea, to stay separate from the national jurisdiction, land and soil, when it came to local governance. This reminds me how in conventional medicine, how they extract what they call active ingredients from the living plants in disregard to the synergistic relationship that the ingredients have with the rest of the plant, which enables it to perform its healing purposes holistically. I tried to follow this paradigm, but I bumped up into these conundrums. Here's another example of a paradigm that caused me a conundrum. If the state general assemblies are to be made up of 2 county electors from each county, how does a standing the states first approach actually get us to where we have to go? This paradigm was supported by the notion that counties have no international interface. And that's true. By themselves, they don't. But together as a union state, they do. It is their union state that conducts business with the other counties and other states for the benefit of any number of their counties collectively. You see, walking backwards, we miss this step. We miss the step of reconstructing our union state at the same time as our State of the Union. I've got another paradigm shift example. The territorial and municipal government service providers are the employees of the American government, but we are still calling them the government. If you are doing this, that's because your paradigm really hasn't shifted yet to embrace the fact that they are not the government. You are the government. They are the subcontractors providing governmental services as your governmental service providers, and they have breached their contract. When any American's rights are violated by the government services providers, that American needs to report that violation to their assembly government who subcontracted out those services. It is not a case of my rights have been violated because you are not part of their citizenry. It's a case of that my government needs to do their job to protect me and my assets. If the townspeople find that your government is not effective at doing that, then you need to reevaluate the government structure that you put into place. There's a big difference in how you relate to the so-called governments, depending on the paradigm you are operating from. Listen to your conversations next time. When you truly believe it, you will posture yourselves differently to project that you are the government and you are their boss responsible for what they do. I want to reemphasize 2 other paradigm shifts that I mentioned earlier. If you attend any of our Assembly government meetings, you will witness that majority rules. Our Republican form of government principle that we are to abide by that says the rights, prerogative, and assets of the individual is paramount does not guide our assemblymen's decisions. I believe if we focus more on the individual than the group, meaning the people, we will finally see how we are governing the same way as a democracy by allowing the majority to rule. If we are valuing the individual as we should, we would be striving genuinely to negotiate a unanimous vote. In this way, the different viewpoints that are brought to the table would make for a wiser governance. Do we really know what individualism actually is? This is a difficult paradigm for us to govern by, I must admit. My last one. Have you been wondering, like me, all these years, why has there never been a third Continental Congress? Preparing this episode gave me the answer. I shared with you earlier in this episode what I learned. A Continental Congress was a meeting held among the colonies, aka investment companies. See my episode 7, where I explained this fact, before they became free and independent states to discuss ownership interests in the land and soil that they lived on. So now I see why this Congress didn't meet again. After they won their freedom to be recognized as owners of the land and soil, that is, as free and independent states, their meetings were held in another jurisdiction of the United States and Congress assembled because the land ownership issue was settled. But I had to ask the question, why is it that our fiduciaries say we are working toward convening a Continental Congress? So I tried changing my perception to look at this differently. I began to see how Continental Congress can be used as a generic term to refer to our nation as a whole, especially if you are explaining this to people who don't know the details of our history, like the high courts. Then it makes sense. So we who now know the historical details about Congresses knows that a Continental Congress is convened by the Union states who handle land and soil issues. Matters involving political and financial issues like international trade and currency are handled by the states of the Union and their Congress called the United States and Congress assembled. If you remember, we have learned back in episode 2 that our American government structure had 6 different DBAs that makes for 6 different presidents and 6 different Congresses. That's how each jurisdiction got their business done. There are many roads to travel to get us to our Reconstruction destination, not just one. So embracing the wisdom of all vantage points will make for a more peaceful and fulfilling journey with our fellow Americans. But let's look for the most direct route. The Peacekeeping Task Force is shifting gears to focus on positioning our American government for a peaceful transition as the old government paradigm is collapsing. I provided you this Reconstruction map to give you some guidance to work from so you can shift it into 4th gear and get your assembly governments organized, functional, and recognized. The PKTF is operating from a paradigm of reconstructing your state and county governments at the same time. Shifting to this vantage point, we are pretty sure we can reach the correct destination faster. Those state and county assemblies out there who want to be a part of this initiative, please send us an email. In the subject line, put Reconstruction Roadmap. We'll send you a map and add you to the mailing list to receive our official Model Union State Initiative guidebook that we are working on once it's completed, and let you know how you can participate. We will work with 4 states closely to help you deploy this initiative onto your state, to be used as a model for other states to work from. The others of you who may be interested in this approach will be able to follow behind closely and maybe jump in on a second wave or a future wave. I hope you have enjoyed this 8-part series of the Resurgence Post Report. I will put out a new series once we get our online news platform built. Stay tuned for that one. I have enjoyed unpacking our Federation's research in these episodes and look forward to when we will meet again. Thank you for watching. this final episode in this series of the Resurgence Post Report.